Yes.
All rise for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Alvarez.
Here.
Councilman Cullen.
Here.
Councilwoman Eckhart.
Here.
Councilwoman Huda. Here. Supervisor Hay.
Here. Notation to exits in the front and the rear. An electronic device, please put it on vibrate and make a motion to come out of the executive session. No, nothing was taken up.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next is District Attorney Robert Tendy for a presentation. Thank you. Mr. Tendy? Right over there. The mic even works for you.
Thank you very much for having me tonight. I really appreciate it. What I'm doing is I'm going to the various town board meetings throughout the county, maybe once or twice a year, just to let people know what my office does, what we can do to help you. There's a lot of things that we can do that people are not aware of, so I'm just going to tick off a few of them and keep it in mind because it's important. We can do a lot of things for a lot of the residents, and we already have. One of the things we can do, and in fact today I had an assistant district attorney and an investigator went to Mayapack High School and gave a presentation on domestic violence, sexual abuse, substance abuse, teen issues, things like that. We can come to your schools, any group meetings you have, scouting meetings, anything. You know, we tailor it towards the audience, of course, but we can do that. And you'd be surprised how many students and teachers contact us after we give a presentation with follow-up questions or even with information that they think might be helpful to the office. So we're certainly willing to come to any organizational meeting you have, any group meeting. We'll come to your church groups, et cetera. It doesn't matter where it is. We'll certainly go there and talk to you about any issue you think is relevant to my office and your organization. One of the things we do a lot is one of the beauties of being a district attorney in a small county is you can talk to the residents personally. And I do that a lot. I encourage residents to call my office, come to the office. If you think you've been a victim of a crime but you're not sure, if you think criminality may be taking place somewhere but you're not sure, or you know you're a victim, or you know criminality is going on, I encourage you to call my office and let us know about it. You can call my office anytime. The number's 845-808-1050. 845-808-1050, and you would be surprised how many residents and some non-residents have come to my office and given us information that has turned into an investigation, that has turned into an arrest and a prosecution of someone who was causing trouble in their neighborhood, their organization, their school, etc. Anything you tell us is kept strictly confidential, and we can meet you at your home, we can meet you at your office, you can come to my office, it doesn't matter where. But if you think anything's going on, or you're not, even if you're not sure, let us know. We can advise you in that regard. Sometimes you'll come to my office and you'll have a matter that turns out to be a civil case. It's got nothing. Hey, Roger, how are you? It's got nothing to do with crime. But in that case, we can point you in the right direction. We can tell you should see a civil lawyer who practices this in this field. We can refer you to a bar association, et cetera. So again, if you have any questions or you think you might be involved with or have seen or you've been a victim of a crime, if you're not sure, come to the office and talk to me. I pretty much have an open door policy. Like I said, it's one of the beauties of being a district attorney in a small county. I don't have to close the door. The doors are always open, unless I'm talking to a victim or a witness. So I encourage you to do that. I really do. If you are a victim of a crime, we do not ask your immigration status. So regardless of your immigration status, if you're a victim of a crime, you should not be afraid to come to my office or ask me to come to meet you somewhere with an investigator and talk to you about what your particular issue is. If you're a victim of a crime, all we're concerned about is finding out who is victimizing you and doing something about it. Now, having said that, if your immigration status is questionable and you commit a crime, you're probably going to have a lot of problems. But that's your problem. But if you're a victim of a crime, we don't ask your immigration status. We don't care. We just want to make sure that whoever is doing the victimizing is prosecuted. I want to talk very briefly about the drug crisis, the opioid crisis in our county and in our country. I don't have to tell anybody here that there's a crisis. If you don't know it by now, you've been living under a rock for a long, long time. But I'm almost begging you, I am begging you, if you think that you know someone, or you think that you may be on the verge of having a drug problem, or an alcohol problem, or a prescription drug problem, tell somebody. Or if you think you know somebody who has a problem, tell on them. If you're a parent and you think your child has a drug problem, I really mean this. You would be better off going out on your front lawn and screaming as loud as you could, "My son has a drug problem," and letting all your neighbors hear it, than trying to quietly deal with it by yourself with your family. It doesn't work. Don't be afraid of letting people know that you or someone you know has a drug or an alcohol problem. I've said this time and time again. If you have the flu, or if you have pneumonia, or if you have a bad back, or if you have a heart problem, you go to a doctor. This isn't 40 years ago. If you have a drug problem, it's a disease. You can't stop it from hurting you. As far as I'm concerned, that's the measure of a disease. You can't prevent it yourself from hurting you. You need professional help. So if you would call a doctor for any other disease, why wouldn't you call a doctor for this, or a psychiatrist, or a police officer, or the sheriff's office, or my office? If you call my office, and people do call my office, and they tell me that their father, or their son, or a relative, or a teacher has a drug problem, we do something about it. We really do. So don't be afraid. If you don't know who to call, you're afraid of speaking to a sheriff's deputy, you're afraid of speaking to a state trooper, call my office. We will point you in the right direction. We'll get you any help that we possibly can. Because it's not all about, we're tired of putting people in jail for this. Now, some people have to be put in jail for it. If you're one of these people who just comes around and sells drugs and you're victimizing people, stay out of our way. But if you're a victim, or you know a victim, let us know. Our approach will not be, well, maybe we can have an investigation and put the little guy in jail. That's not how it works. We'll do whatever we can do to help you. Now, if you're a parent, I'm going to give you an example of sometimes where jail is helpful. And I really mean this. Before I became district attorney, the last drug case I represented, I took, was a young woman, early 30s, still lived with her parents. She was a bad heroin addict. Really, really bad. And she had been through program after program after program all around the United States. And she was still a bad heroin addict. And she got arrested with a lot of dope. And I told the parents, I'm not taking this case if you bail her out. And they had the money to bail her out. I said, you want to bail her out? Get somebody else. Because I'm tired of seeing these people get out of jail and then winding up dead somewhere. I'm tired of it. So they retained me. And I let, with the parents' permission, that girl sat in jail for 14 months, screaming, cursing, spitting at me, hating her parents, and after about 10 months, the light bulb went back on. Because when you're that bad, if you're that bad of an addict, 30 days ain't gonna do it. 60 days ain't gonna do it. 6 months isn't gonna do it. So after about 10 or 11 months, she started to come back to where she was 10 or 11 years before. And you could see it. Her voice changed, her eye, everything changed. And then after 3 or 4 months, we got her into Drug Reach's treatment program, and she's now a happy, successful mother of a wonderful child. So if your kid is that bad, really that bad, I mean this, get him arrested and leave him in jail. If nothing else has worked, get him arrested. We'll keep him in jail for you. It's local. It works. Sometimes it does work. So again, it's not just don't be afraid of the stigma of being somebody who's involved with drugs or knowing someone who's involved with drugs. Don't be afraid of the stigma of jail. because it's actually not called jail anymore. Some of us forget this. It's called a correctional facility. And our correctional facilities today are much, much more advanced than they used to be. So that's also another option. This affects everybody. It affects doctors, lawyers, literally Indian chiefs. It affects firemen, policemen, college professors, mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers. It affects everybody from all walks of life. So all I want to tell you is that my office is here. We're here to help you, and we'll do anything we can to point you or a loved one or a friend in the right direction. This is a really serious issue. I spoke to another parent this week whose child died of a heroin overdose, and I don't want to speak to them anymore. I don't want it to happen anymore. And there's a way to prevent it if you just really, really keep your eyes and your mind open. These situations can end. There is hope. There really is hope. And one of the things I want you to bring up, I'm going to give this to you, Supervisor Hay. You probably have it, but if you don't, I'm going to give it to you. Maybe you can put it on your website, post it on a TV scroll. This is just in Putnam County, and this is just some of the services that are available to you, and there are a lot more. There's Arms Acres, there's Drug Crisis in Our Backyard, there's a Prevention Council of Putnam, Cove Care Center, St. Christopher's Inn, Walter Hoving Home. We have the Putnam County Crisis Hotline. We have Putnam County Cares, New York State Office of Alcoholism and Substance Abuse. There's a whole bunch of places where you can get help, right here in our county. But you have to get over the fact that I'm a drug addict, or he's a drug addict, or he's an alcoholic. You're not. You're just sick. And you need a clinician to diagnose you and properly treat you. So please, do whatever you can. My office is always available. You can call my office anytime, and we will do whatever we can to help you. Now, that was all rather depressing, I'm sure. But it's not, because there are a number of people that I meet on a regular basis who are former drug addicts, former alcoholics, former heroin addicts, and they're really good, happy people. So it can happen. You just have to work for them, work with them. So with that, I'll ask you if you have any questions, or if you have any comments, or if you think I'm full of it. Doesn't matter. In this discussion, all opinions are on the table. Every opinion is valid. And if there are no questions, I want to wish you all a very Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and Happy New Year.
You're not getting off that easy. I do have a quick question of you.
Go ahead.
As I sat as a legislator and now as a town supervisor, we from time to time get complaints from residents, sometimes they're anonymous, and they make an accusation or something to that nature. I've always been of one to, when I was on the legislature in particular, I heard things, people came to me and told me things, didn't want to be reported as to who the person was, and researched it. What would your department do? If someone came to you anonymously with whatever, do you ignore them, or do you look into the matter?
We look into it immediately,
I do as well.
always. And sometimes we'll get tips regarding possible drug sales. And we turn the tips over to the appropriate law enforcement agency. The case or the complaint is assigned a number. We keep track of what's going on with it. And more often than not, the person who makes the complaint has seen what he or she thought she saw, and it has led to an arrest. So tips from citizens, from residents, are really important. They very do oftentimes lead to a real investigation and a real arrest and the end of a real problem.
And many times not.
Many times not, but when it isn't, we let them know why. Sometimes we think it is, but there's just not enough to prove it, and we tell them to keep an eye out. We have law enforcement in this county. We're really lucky. We have some really good law enforcement in this county. Every department is really, really good. And I know, I've worked in the city a long time. You guys have some great police agencies here, and with the state troopers coming in and helping, they're pretty advanced. So we can launch a really thorough investigation and explain to the resident after a period of time, yes, it's this, no, it isn't this, and here's why. We like to do it. It's fun. That's what we get paid for, ferreting out information and trying to determine what's going on with a particular case. We get calls like that very, very frequently.
And again, sometimes I get it in letter form, I'll get it in a verbal form.
Thank you.
And what I do is, I look into it, because I don't know that they didn't send a CC to you, the district attorney, and then you say, well, how come Mr. Hay never acted upon this? So anytime I get something like that, I've done it as a legislator, I do it here. I don't get a lot, but they do come forward from time to time. Matter of fact, someone said they said something to me, and then all of a sudden, they were anonymous, so I couldn't get back to them, let them know that their accusation was totally false.
Yep.
And then they contacted Ms. Eckhart, saying, Mr. Hay did nothing. Well, how do I contact an anonymous person? You can't.
Well, that's the beauty of being a town supervisor, Tony. I was one for 8 years, and sometimes it happens. But we do look at every tip that comes in. The anonymous tips are sometimes hard to do much with. It's easier for us to go back to the person and get more specific information. Again, everything is kept completely confidential. So you're better off sending us a tip that we can contact you and really figure out what's going on. But if you want to do it anonymously, we still check, we just can't get back to you.
So I have a future then, supervisor to district attorney, I have a chance, huh?
Absolutely.
Just get that law degree.
Yeah,
Tony.
just a couple of years of that law degree.
Okay.
I
Thank you for
wouldn't
coming.
recommend, veterinarian school, it's a much better choice.
Anyone else,
Don't
any
say that
comments?
tonight, Wood.
Anyone from the public?
All right, well, thank you very much. It's been
Thank
a
you.
pleasure being here. And I want to say one thing about Supervisor Hay. He beats me to it all the time. Every year, this very thoughtful man calls me for Christmas and says, he personally calls me and says, Bob, I just want to wish you a Merry Christmas. So yesterday, I realized I'm coming to Southeast. I'm like, I'm going to call Tony before he calls me. I'm going to call, I got it. And I forgot to call him about 10 o'clock this morning. The phone rings. Bob, it's Tony. I was like, yeah. He did it again. He beats me to it every year. He's a very, very thoughtful person. I appreciate it. We look forward to
This year
it.
I got 3 people that beat me to it. They called me at Thanksgiving.
Maybe I'm just getting,
Remember Kevin Bailey? He's all the way down in Florida. He said, I'm beating you this year.
the personal call is very appreciated. I'm going to give you this. If you don't have it, maybe you can put it on your website, a link to all these.
We can do that.
All right?
Okay. Again, thank you for coming this
Thank
evening.
you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. Good night, everybody.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is the work session. Make a motion to go into that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
First item is revised Chapter 60, Article 2, dogs. Will, thank you for writing this up. Who was working on this? Lynn and Bob?
Well, I got, we both got information from other towns.
Right. You weren't at the
And then
I
last,
wasn't at the last
Yeah,
meeting. I
Lynn
couldn't
met
make it,
with the group, and they came up with, I guess, what we see here tonight.
Yes, they were, I'd really like to thank, the group was very helpful, it was very workable, it was Eileen McDermott and Lisa Tremblay, and there was a veterinarian as well. And thanks to Will, who worked on this really quickly, which was fantastic, because we just gave him notes, and he did all the legal, he did the heavy lifting. But I think if the board agrees, and let's look, if there are modifications, that's fine, I'd like to hear from the public. But we may be able to get this done in record time so that the dogs won't be left outside during the winter months, which I know is a real concern for the people working on this.
Now, as far as the public hearing, though, we got our next meeting is the 21st. I'm not sure we can get it into the press in time, because we wouldn't make it at this point in time. Had to be in.
Notice the public hearing for the 21st?
No, I'm saying,
Can we?
do we have enough time to do?
Yeah.
Now,
Well,
do we
and let's
want,
see
do we
what-
want to do it so close to Christmas? You want to wait until right
Well,
after?
I don't,
The winter is the.
yeah, I
concern.
don't think, that we'll see tonight if it's controversial, I'm gonna, we need to, or if we had to extend the public hearing, we can do that, but I think,
Okay,
let's
so
see how it goes tonight.
We're going
but
to
I
try to
would-
get it on for the public hearing
I
for
would
the
like to,
21st.
unless we hear that
Okay.
we haven't done a very good
So
job on this. so.
Let's discuss this amongst ourselves and then bring the public up to. I only have
Yes.
two
Yeah.
issues quickly. On Chapter 60, number 3, we have B, the tethering is 5 times the length of a dog as measured from the tip. Don't have a problem with that. But when you go down to F, the tether shall be long enough for an animal to be able to move around, defecate, and urinate in an area which is separated by at least 10 feet from the dog must eat, drink, or lie down. One of those numbers should be, I think the 10 feet is maybe not enough. Would you agree with that? I mean, you got a Chihuahua, which is like this big, and then you got St. Bernard. I seen a dog, they look like a horse, for God's sakes. So you got something that big. So 10 feet is, I don't know. I think it should be a different number. And I don't know what the number would be. I don't know the dog. What would you think? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
5 times the length of dog, not a problem with that.
Right.
That's good, okay? But then we say you have to be separated from where they're, doing their duty and eating.
I think
drinking,
what
like
that, the guidance there is, right, because I see exactly what you mean, because the Chihuahua would be on a very
Yeah.
small tether and then couldn't possibly reach the food. and
Yeah,
drink,
but,
so-
a bigger dog could. So I'm just
Right.
wondering,
The tether length is a minimum.
Right,
And
minimum, right.
So the other is a minimum distance, so
Right.
if the.
Is it
if
minimum?
the feeding
Yes.
area,
Well, it says at least. It
At
doesn't
least,
say
right.
minimally.
Yeah.
Maybe if you want to
That's a
change
little
at least to minimally, so.
wait.
It's just, yes,
Okay.
Will's right, it would be like common
Okay,
sense,
so-
it would, yeah.
Okay, so that's not a problem. And then how about in age? It says 40 degrees and water freezes at 32. I think we should change it to 32 and not 40.
I would defer to, I'd like to hear what the rest of the board thinks on that as well. This was mostly from the Humane Society of the United States. I think all of this, I think this is a really, it's a progressive law that's a good one and is going to be difficult to enforce at best.
Well, we mentioned
But-
freezing,
Right.
in the law, and 32 is freezing, so.
I think the problem was, we didn't want to get breed specific, and a husky could be outside till, in 0-degree weather, but a Chihuahua, even 40 degrees is rough on a Chihuahua. So I think that was the method behind that, but I'm all for feedback from the board and from the public on this.
Okay. That's the only 2 suggestions or comments I had.
Okay.
Yeah, this is, it is going to be an interesting ordinance to enforce. I mean, as far as access to clean, non-frozen water and nutritious food in sufficient quantities. But, the idea is, what I think we're trying to do is we're trying to say, I think everyone would think that, if someone threw 3 pieces of kibble in a bowl, that wouldn't be a sufficient quantity, although maybe the person that
Fed
threw
them
the 3
early.
pieces of kibble thinks it is, but.
Right.
It's enforcement, but I think it's enough for everyone with any common sense to understand it. And certainly, if it came before a town justice or whomever it is that's going to enforce it, that it should be, somewhat commonsensical.
Right. I
But
think-
certainly.
Right, and I think part of this code is to be instructive, because the belief was that a lot of people just really don't know. It seems like common sense if you love dogs, but it might not be for some people. And this is really written to protect dogs. I would think for the most part, unless someone puts complaints in, files a complaint, that this probably doesn't, and I don't think in Southeast it needs lots of enforcing. For the most part, I think people here, our residents, treat dogs really well. Every indication has been that way for me and knowing people who are dog owners. But hopefully this gives guidance as well as really protects dogs, so.
Yeah, I would say I think it's going to be definitely hard to enforce. Someone's going to have to sit in front of a house for an hour to make sure, see how long a dog is there if somebody makes a complaint. But I think it's better than what we had, and I think we should move on the public hearing for the next meeting
Right.
before the end of the year, before the cold weather comes in. And I guess if there's a problem, things could always be amended.
Yes, I agree with you on that. I think that is going to be key.
But at least this will be on the books before January.
Yeah, I think the only other point is, which I don't think we have to make a big deal about, is if you have multiple dogs, having multiple dogs being tethered and,
That's already, well, you can only have, Will, am I right, 4 dogs?
look, but if you have 3 dogs tethered and they're all, I don't know. I mean, I think we could probably, beat ourselves to death with all of the different permutations, but certainly I think that this is something we could ask the public to comment on and see what they say.
Just with G, 2 thoughts. To like Lynn's point, if no dog shall be outside between 10 and 6. I think this is more of just like, kind of like a noise ordinance. The dog's not outside barking and bothering, quote unquote, your neighbors at night. But in theory, right, if you got a husky, he could be out all night and probably love it, as opposed to like a Chihuahua. So I didn't know if it was based on just, hey, it's kind of cruel to leave your animal out all night, but.
That's
it-
really
But it wouldn't
Depending
be in
if
the
it's
summer,
breeds.
it wouldn't be in the summertime.
Right.
But, right, exactly, in the summer, right. I just wanted to make sure what the thought process was behind that.
Yes, the
It was
thought
more-
process was that it
But
can
that's
be.
only, that's
yeah.
only tethering. I mean,
Yeah, tethering.
Your dog could be out in a penned-in cage
Okay,
all night.
Or it could be, wireless fenced in on some, all night. without
once
being
again, the,
tethered, right.
kind of the technicalities. And then in theory, a working dog, like quote-unquote a guard dog at a junkyard or something, in theory.
It should
they-
have proper shelter, but,
but,
and there
right, they
again,
might
if it's
be
not.
out between 10 PM and 6 AM. But they're like a working dog, so I don't know if there's gonna be like an exclusion for like quote-unquote a working dog versus a household pet.
I don't even know if there are any.
It's almost like I feel like I'm at the Westminster Kennel Club.
But I think it's important.
We're gonna have to bone up on our breeds.
I think it's important to move on this.
Yeah,
You take one of the cases pro bono.
yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna, we'll take this case pro bono.
Anyone from the public would like to come up, please?
Pro bono.
Public hearing.
Hello. Lisa Tremblay. Thanks for working on this with us. Really appreciate it and how fast you did everything. It's really appreciated by everyone involved. I don't have a problem with the way it's written at all. I think it's what we wanted. And basically, it's really to just set a guideline so that, this came about because of someone in the town of Southeast that a lot of neighbors thought was not treating his dogs well. So all of this came about because we can't enforce something if we don't have a law. So is it going to deter someone from leaving their dog out when it's freezing or hot or no shelter or no water? And it's only if someone catches them or wants to report it. But I think if the public knows, hey, like these dogs are protected now, we have to, and Lynn, you said something in our meeting about how long it takes to get justice sometimes. So it's a start, and if you report it, and I don't know, I think that the two Kens from the SPCA have to, know that, this is the law now. Can they enforce this? Hopefully they will. And also, is it Courtney is the dog
Yes.
officer, right?
Yes.
And those are the people that are supposed to enforce it or be called when there's a problem.
Well, the town code could be enforced by the building inspector and the building department as well.
Okay.
It's not
But they
limited.
would probably call Courtney.
Right, I'm sure.
Well, not just,
Right.
well, no, I mean, it's an ordinance of the town, which can be done by the building department as well, during the day and things of that nature. It's not limited.
And I think I know, some of us had said 32 degrees was, the temperature to bring a dog inside. And Maria Logano, who has been a veterinarian for 20 years, was the one that said, listen, the dog is going to be freezing just like you if he's standing outside, tethered to a 2-foot length leash, and it's 40. So is a husky? No, the husky's going to love it. So I don't know how you can, if you start listing every breed in here, I think that's getting,
can't.
yeah, you can't do that. So it's common sense. I don't think there's anything I have to add to it, and I went over it with Eileen and Maria, and I think they were happy
Good.
as well.
Well,
Very good, if they can come to the or whoever,
Right.
to the public hearing and give us,
Okay.
thoughts and opinions, it'll be very helpful.
Okay, sure, yeah, I think, anyone who was involved with it was happy with this, and I'll get a bunch of people to come out and support this for the public hearing if you do it.
It's going to be, we'll schedule it in the next portion of the meeting at the 21st.
21st?
That's the first item on the agenda.
yeah.
Okay,
So anyhow, it was, I really appreciate all your help with this.
Good,
And I hope
thanks.
that this will be really instructive rather than.
well, that's
you know,
what the whole
Yeah.
guide, this is for, is to be instructive. I watched a neighbor for 2 years tie his husky to a 3-foot lead and tried to get involved, and there was no, if I had
Right.
something like this, I could have said, well,
Right.
this is how it should be done.
Right.
So,
So, great.
thank
Or at
you.
least how the town
Yeah,
may enforce it.
right.
So, Even though it's, even though it's instructive, you have to impress
Right.
upon them the fact that this is something that has to be complied with.
Exactly.
So,
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to the next item. It's board appointments and reappointments. Every year, I get a report identifying all the board members. We have the zoning board of appeals, and of course, the, let's see, zoning board and the planning board.
ARB,
Well,
But
the
they're not-
ARB is not part of this
Right.
discussion because they're not, it's not mandatory. They have the
Continuing ed.
education aspect. So right now, we're just talking about basically the ZBA members and the planning board members because state law requires them to keep up on the codes. And some of our board members are very diligent in what they're supposed to, and some are not. I have one board member here that's 2 years behind. Actually, it's more than that now. It's 2 years and 2 3/4 years. Now, I checked, the state makes a requirement, but there's no penalty if you don't meet the requirement, and that's not really fair to those that don't. So what I'm going to suggest, maybe the next time we go to appoint someone, and I have to admit, the 3 people that asked for reappointment this year all are qualified.
All current.
They're qualified, so we won't need it now, but in the future possibly, write something into the resolution that they have to adhere to this here. Now, some, we just might just not reappoint. I mean, if someone hasn't, continued education for over a year, I mean, we got 1, 2 3/4 years, I'll try to speak to him and ask him, would he do it? Or if he doesn't want to participate anymore, that would be up to that person. But I think we should beef up the resolution when we pass in the future, that they have to keep up with the continued education. And if not, it'd be, possible grounds to relieve them during their term. Because the planning board term is, 7 years, and put some teeth into it. Most people do comply, but there's a few that are kind of lax. And we appreciate the service that they do, but the state law requires you to do something. So,
It also, it's easy now because you can do these courses, some courses, it's only 4 hours a year, and for the continuing ed, and you can do them online. And these are, although they're a stipend and a small amount, but these board members are paid positions, and I just think it's very important for them to keep up and fill, that's part of, that should be part of the qualifications. So I really believe strongly we should beef up enforcement.
okay. So that's a discussion. So, again, the 3 that are coming up this year, there's no problem with, but maybe in the future, and we, as a town board or the supervisor, I'll write, the few that, they got to get caught up on it. We don't have it as a rule now, but there should be one in place in the future.
Yeah, and we really want to make it clear when people apply to be on and are going to be appointed, so that they know.
Okay. I make a motion now to go into the regular portion of the meeting.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're going to be discussing, number 1 is Resolution Barrett Hill LLC, a special permit, and also Barrett Hill is the second item, Community Benefits Agreement and Recreation Contribution to the Town. I'd like to move these as a package as we discuss them, okay, and vote on them accordingly. First one, yes? Oh, I thought I heard something. Oh, okay. So, the first one is for the special permit. Resolved that the town board of the town of Southeast hereby makes the following findings of fact in connection with the incident application. 1, the proposed use is in such location and is a size and character that it will be in harmony with the appropriate and orderly development of the surrounding district and will not be detrimental to the immediate site or adjacent properties. 2, the location and size of the proposed use, the nature of intensity of operations involved in or conducted in connection herewith, is site layout, and its relation to access streets will be such that both pedestrian and vehicular traffic to and from the use and the assembly of persons in connection hereto will not be hazardous. 3, the exterior appearance of the building will not hinder or discourage the development and use of adjacent land and buildings. 4, the proposed use will not require such additional public facilities or services or create fiscal burdens upon the town greater than those which characterize uses permitted as of right. And be further resolved that based upon the foregoing findings, the town board of the town of Southeast hereby grants a multifamily workforce housing special permit to the subject premises in accordance with the statement of use prepared and submitted to the planning board in connection with the project development plan application and incorporated herein by reference on the following conditions. 1, the applicant shall operate the facility in compliance with all conditions set forth in Articles 10 and 19?
No, yeah, it's
Next.
19.
That's 19, right?
Yep.
I'm not good with
Roman
mine.
numerals.
Roman numerals. I know
Roman
Super,
numeral 19.
I know this, I know the Super Bowl ones, but not this one. Of the zoning code.
Super Bowl ones are different.
Number 2, the applicant shall execute a full mutually accepted community benefit agreement with the town, which shall include, but not limited to, the payment of recreation fees calculated on the number of units to be constructed, donation of work, labor, materials, and services for the reconstruction/rehabilitation of Castle Park, and the donation of certain land located adjacent hereto, or thereto, sorry. And be further resolved that the town clerk is hereby authorized and directed to forward a certified copy of this resolution to Barrett Hill Associates LLC, to the Secretary of Town Southeast Planning Board, and to the Southeast Building Department forthwith. That is the first one. The second one is for the Community Benefits Agreement. Now therefore be resolved that the town board of the town of Southeast hereby authorizes the supervisor to execute, 1, an agreement establishing recreation contribution to be paid by Barrett Hill Associates LLC in connection with the Barrett Hill Multifamily Workforce Housing Project, and 2, a community benefit agreement setting forth the parameters necessary to fulfill the criteria for grant of the special permit to the Barrett Hill project for multifamily workforce housing in a form and substance approved by the town attorney, and be further resolved that this resolution shall take effect immediately. Now, in your package, you have on number 2, you have number 2 itself, and so not to confuse them, because you have another one in the package, community benefits agreement. I have it listed as R22. And, yes?
Yes.
Okay.
I do.
And there's what happened to the R21? Oh, wait, okay. There's an R21. R2 is the first one I just read. R21 is the recreation contribution to the town, and R22 is a community benefits agreement. So we're going to move this as one package for the 2 items. Discussion. So move for discussion.
I'll second
Second.
it.
Discussion.
Tony, I'm going to be voting no tonight on these, and I'd like to just read a really brief statement so people understand why I'm voting no on this. While I'm happy that the town was able to secure recreation fees, albeit reduced, on the Barrett Hill Apartments, I'm still not convinced that the community benefits agreement is a good direction for the town to take. Simply put, the workforce housing that we vote on this evening is considered discriminatory. Even our town planner, AKRF, does not consider the proposed verbiage adequate protection for Southeast. While giving various local groups priority in housing sounds like a good idea, it could cost Southeast in litigation settlements. As a reminder, seniors are a protected class, as are the disabled, and I am pleased that both groups will be eligible for reduced rents. That said, local government employees, school administrators, educators, firefighters, first responders, and even veterans do not have protected class status. My concern is that Southeast may be subject to litigation that is both costly and unwinnable. One of my most important jobs as councilwoman is fiscal responsibility. Opening Southeast to costly litigation is unconscionable, and I cannot support it. Additionally, it's essential to understand that the same developer is another approved senior subdivision, 63 units of 3-bedroom semi-detached housing at Terravest, and that this complex will be eligible to receive this exact zoning change. For the record, it is the only other parcel in Southeast that will be eligible for this zoning change. In a 2-sentence history lesson, it's important to remember that both senior housing developments were rezoned and approved years ago because residents were told that neither would add children to our school system. While we were reassured by the Brewster School District that there is room to accommodate new students, bear in mind that each new student is an additional tax burden to all Southeast taxpayers. Over 10 years ago, I asked a simple question of the same applicant's attorney. I asked what guarantees we had that Barrett Hill or Terravest would remain senior housing. I was assured that it would be very difficult to change the updated zoning code and that the development would remain restricted to seniors. Yet here we are, over a decade later, accommodating changes that do not benefit the majority of our residents. Therefore, I cannot support Barrett Hill in any of the resolutions tonight. All that said, I do welcome Barrett Hill and new residents. It's nothing personal, but I just feel pretty strongly about rezoning, especially in light of our comprehensive plan. And I will leave it at that.
Any other comments?
I just heard very quickly what Lynn said. I would have liked to have heard it a little slower, albeit I understand that you're reading. I think that some of the points that you have raised are points, in my recollection, were not really, if they were raised, they were not emphasized, they were not supported, i.e., just initially, just on what you said quickly, which is the possibility of lawsuits. Certainly, I understand that there's always a possibility of litigation, particularly as regards new developments. I don't recall a lot of people or anyone standing up and saying that there would be lawsuits. So in the first instance, I just want to say that. Second instance, just once again picking up on what you said, AKRF, as we all know, in the discussions regarding the recreation fees, first actually recommended to the planning board, which voted 7-0 to accept that recommendation, that recreation fees would actually be less than those which are contained in what's before us this evening. The AKRF, after during that first meeting, you and Tony had discussed various alternatives. Amongst them, although Tony in a subsequent meeting said he did not say that, it was bandied about the, I believe it was the $7,500 per unit, although it was the lot, et cetera, et cetera. The developer came forth on the next meeting and said, in fact, they would accept the concept of an increased fee, and in addition, do work to Castle Park, which I believe is contained in these resolutions. So in fact, I believe that AKRF had initially said less, then came back with more. There were numerous questions posed as to why Ashley Lay had said what she said. And it was discussed, the fact that Ashley had discussed with you and Tony modifications. I had discussed modifications with her, I discussed the modifications that were made and questioned the same. So therefore, I do not recall that Ashley had suggested, or at least had supported after we had discussed it the second time, that these fees should be any greater than those that are stated herein. In terms of modifying the project, the zoning from the senior citizens only, as you said, Lynn, I believe just now, senior citizens are included, and there are other groups which I believe need housing, which are going to be included in this Barrett Hill. I believe your last statement, which says, hey, look, everyone, I think it's a great thing that you're going to be included, even though I just said, what a heck of a thing. But I get it. You're apparently against zoning changes, which is obviously you're right. I think that this development will go a long way towards helping and accommodating different groups in our town, as well as in our community and our county, which may not have screamed out for that need 10 years ago when you appeared and were questioned or questioning the attorneys at the time regarding their position. Life, as we all know, is modifiable, for lack of a better word. Everything changes. Sometimes it changes slowly, sometimes it changes quickly, sometimes we don't all agree with the changes, sometimes we wish the changes wouldn't occur. But guess what? It happens. And this is what's happening now. So therefore, I believe that this is a good thing. I do not believe that the fact that there is another area in the town which can be changed in accordance with the zoning change is that much of is that compelling The attorneys, including our town attorney, I believe in my recollection, had said that the zoning change itself is one which would be subject to town board approval, and that the town board, in its own way, we would never be arbitrary and capricious, but it would be very difficult to overcome if the town board said no. And even in that no, the town board could be fairly, I'm going to use the word subjective. So therefore, I never felt intimidated by the fact there's another lot. I think that we have a lot of great first responders out there in our community, veterans, senior citizens, educators. We had Rollo Ross come here to speak to it, and I think it's a good thing. And therefore, I will be voting yes.
Anyone else?
I just want to correct one thing, because I don't want to throw Ashley under the bus or AKRF. They were fine with the rec fees, that's correct. She was concerned about the aspect of possible discrimination and lawsuits. That was their concern. So I don't want to infer that she was concerned about the rec fees modified up or as they were originally.
I think AKRF is an organization that has been very cognizant of the fact that there are lots of Article 78s out there and a lot of people that question development. And I think that they're a very careful organization who will preface any determinations they make by saying, hey, guys, guess what? There can be a lawsuit. So that's my response.
Anyone else? Roll call vote.
I just wanted to say I support this project. We have a severe problem in Putnam Brewster with volunteer firemen leaving the area and not being able to live here. I think this is a small thing we can do to maintain a fully paid, a fully volunteer fire department and having our volunteers stay close to town. And there is definitely a need for rental housing in our town, so I am supporting it. So.
Anyone else? Roll call vote.
Councilman Alvarez.
Yes.
Councilman Cullen.
Yes.
Councilwoman Eckhart.
No.
Councilwoman Hudak.
Yes.
Supervisor Hay.
No. Number 3, motion to rescind resolution number 79, 2017. That's so we can move on with the farmer's market. So motion to rescind resolution 79 of 2017. So move for discussion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Number 4, motion to accept the farmer's market short environmental assessment form. So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Number 5, a resolution, farmer's market to declare lead agency. Now therefore be resolved that pursuant to 617.6B1 of the State Environmental Quality Review Act, SEQRA, the town board of the town of Southeast hereby declares itself lead agency for the purpose of SEQRA for the unlisted action. So move for discussion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Number 6, resolution farmer's market, a negative declaration. So move for discussion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Number 7 is a resolution, it's a farmer market local law. Now therefore be resolved that the town board of the town of Southeast hereby adopts local law number 9 of 2017, which would enact a new chapter of the Code of Town of Southeast entitled Farmers Markets to regulate the holding of seasonal farmer markets on certain properties within town, establish a mechanism for filing and granting permits to hold farmers markets, establish certain minimum standards for properties used to hold farmers markets, and impose penalties for failure to lawfully abide by said minimum standards and organizational regulations. And be further resolved that the town clerk be is hereby authorized and directed to A, enter said local law in the minutes of the meeting of the code book of the town of Southeast, and B, give due notice of the adoption of said local law by filing such with the Secretary of State of New York within time required by law. So move for discussion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
I just want to abstain. I work for Hudson Valley Cerebral Palsy, so I just think it'd be best if I abstain.
Okay, noted. Got that, Michelle? Number 8, resolution ARB recommendation, Prospect Hill Office Park Phase 2. Now therefore be resolved that the town board hereby accepts and approves the report of the Architectural Review Board dated November 20, 2017, in connection with the application of Prospect Hill Office Park Phase 2, which seeks to add a 2-story commercial/office building and accessory parking facilities to an existing site located at 162 Prospect Hill Road, tax map number 56.1-32.2, no, sorry, let me do it again. 56.1-32.2 in the town of Southeast, Putnam County, New York, a copy of which is annexed hereto and a part thereof, and such report shall be incorporated in any final site plan subsequently reviewed and approved for this project by the planning board. So move for discussion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Number 9, resolved that the supervisor hereby authorized to make and file any and all letters of intent, application, agreements, and other documents with the Dormitory Authority of the State of New York for the purpose of assessing grant funds to be used in connection with the renovation, updating, and improving a recreation facility owned by the town of Southeast, known as Lakeview Manor, located on Shore Drive, and be further resolved that all actions heretofore taken in this regard are hereby ratified and confirmed. That's you?
Nunc pro tunc.
Thank you. So move for discussion.
Second.
Discussion. This has been a long time in coming. By the time we got this prepared, it's, going to be snowing soon, so we're not going to be working on it immediately. But so the seniors, I think the first time the spring comes around, you'll see this project moving along, and it's been a long time in coming. We thank DASNY, our people up in Albany that have been helping us get these grants and moving it forward. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, number 10, resolution to release performance bond, space on the farm. Now therefore be resolved that $4,400 performance bond filed in connection with the space on the farm site plan located at 400-406 Star Ridge Road, tax map number 56.1-32.2 is hereby released and may be canceled by the issuing institution. Be further resolved that the town clerk is authorized to return any and all original bonds, deposits, letters of credit, or other indicia of security originally posted in connection with the project to the developer, and be further resolved that the town clerk is hereby directed to forward a certified copy of this resolution of the planning board, secretary, the town building inspector, and the property owner forthwith. So move for discussion.
Second.
Discussion.
I'd just like to say, I think it's been a great addition to Southeast, so I'm happy that we can release their performance bond.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next is a resolution certiorari settlement, Lavie Brewster, tax map 45.1-21. Now therefore be resolved that the town board of the town of Southeast does hereby accept the recommendations of professional advisors and authorize the town attorney to execute a stipulation of settlement, consent judgment, and/or order of consent in accordance with the recommendation for the following. Petitioner, Lavie Brewster, tax ID 45.1-21, year 2017, assessment $3,497,600, settled assessment $3,100,000. And be further resolved that the town attorney is hereby authorized and directed to execute any and all stipulations, consent orders, or other documents necessary to reflect the foregoing settlement. So move for discussion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Number 12, resolution local highway inventory additions. Now therefore be resolved that the superintendent of highways is hereby authorized to amend the local highway for the town of Southeast to include the following named roads. These are roads that were not previously on the inventory. Let's see.
Just one comment.
Yes.
To amend the local highway, should it be local highway inventory or just a local highway?
Could be inventory.
local highway inventory.
Okay, so the resolve clause, the second line of resolve clause, local highway inventory. Do we have a seconder on this yet?
I'll second it
No.
if you don't.
Okay, so I'll make the recommendation, seconder approve? Okay, you got that noted, Michelle, okay? Okay. I'm not going to identify, I'll just identify the road and the beginning description because it gets really technical with the .021, 023, 019. Borough Court, St. James Place, Borough Court, Begin Loop, Elmhurst Avenue, CR 53, Farm Lake Court, Daisy Lane, Manor Way, Panorama Drive, Old Mine Road, Tilly Foster, Pine View Drive, Guinea Road, Reed Road, Dead End, Route 312 Spur, New York State Route 312, Starley Road, CR 55, and CR stands for County Road, Thomas Road, US Route 6, Tennant Lake RD Spur, that's CR 58, Woodland Road, Foster Road, Palmer Road, New York State Route 22, Overlook Drive, it's a cul-de-sac, Old Mine Lane, Old Mine RD, Highview Terrace, Brewster Hill Road, Old Nichols Road, New York State Route 6, Independent Way, New York State Route 312, Independent Way, south of 6th Lane, Independent Way, Section 3. And be further resolved that the town hereby recognizes illegal responsibility for the road set forth in this resolution and undertakes to improve and maintain such roads in a manner consistent with town roads and highways. And be further resolved that the foregoing roads and highways are hereby designated and laid out as town highways. So move for discussion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Now, what happened? Oh, this is something. Who's got it? You know what? I'm missing my page. Oh, here it is. Number 13. Okay. Town is going out to bid for many of the services. Here in the town, we went out for town attorney, town engineering services, town IT, town printing, town video photography, and town wetlands consultant. As a result of multiple bids. I mean, this was really well petitioned by the public. Not every one of them, but some of them. We had up to 9 bids for the engineering, and we had 8 for, which one? IT. So it was well, I've had people probably contact me now for the past probably 3 to 4 years, let me know when you're going to be doing it. We go out to bid at least once every 3 years, and most times these contracts are 3 years with 2 one-year extensions if they choose to go with that, and the town agrees to it. So it could be up to 5 years. So we had quite a file of people that wanted to know for the past 4 years. We were very surprised when we contacted them. They said, "You kept our letter?" Of course we do. We want, competitive bidding. So with that, first one is town attorney. The winning bid on that is the Stevens Law Firm, PLLC. Congratulations, Will. Engineering, it's not identified, we discussed earlier.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Nathan L. Jacobson and Associates Incorporated.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Now, we're going to do this all as one at the end, but just on that one item, okay? IT,
I'd like to make a motion that we nominate Joe Vera Computers.
okay,
Vera
Vera Computers. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion will come at the end if we need to. Printing, perform printing and safeguard, they're awarded by category, and there was one other firm that got one item. That went out by, envelopes, business cards, and whoever gives it the best price got it. So that was awarded to 3 different companies. Video photography,
I'll make a motion for Euro Video.
and that's the gentleman out there now. You're signed up again.
Well, gotta
Congratulations.
say-
Well, maybe, we'll see.
Oh, wait,
We
you
didn't
didn't get a
vote on it
second.
yet.
I know.
I'll second.
Okay. Now, we're going to put off the wetlands consultant. We have 3 people that are low bid. There were 3 that were quite high, so they were kind of knocked out of contention early on, and 1 put in no bid. So we're going to do continued research. I'm going to get back in touch with the town board over the next week, and we may end up doing personal interviews, and hopefully by December 21st, we have a decision on that. So, to move them as a package, as we identified and been seconded, so we'll move it as a package,
And I'll second it as a package.
okay? Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
So the only one not discussed or picked tonight was the wetlands consultant. And I will be in touch with each one as we discuss this evening, and we'll come forward hopefully by the next meeting. Okay, I'm going to make a motion to waive the rules so we can put the public hearing for the dogs on.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
On the motion itself, make a motion to have a public hearing on the dog law for December 21st.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Will, you get that in tomorrow, quick?
It will.
Okay. Okay, we're to the public comment period.
Hello, Melinda Montanaro. I just had a question about the video photography contract. There was
Yes.
discussion a couple months ago that maybe we would start videotaping planning board meetings and zoning board meetings. Has anything
Audio.
come
Well,
of that discussion?
No.
Or is it cost prohibitive, or?
It's not cost prohibitive. I mean, there's some money in the budget. I mean, we're going to take, I won't say controversial subject matters, but if something comes of interest that the public might want to know, we will be considering that in the
I
future.
think what we did decide, although I don't think it's been done yet, because they've been really busy, but is to do what the county does, which is SoundCloud, and it's audio, and that's very inexpensive,
And that's on the website?
and that
Yes.
would be on the website.
And that would stay on until the next,
That stays on for
meeting.
almost, no,
Oh,
no,
just
longer,
Longer, I
Okay.
longer.
believe.
Might be a couple of years even.
I find it, for a free service, so to speak, very informative on county committee meetings. So I think it's, I mean, it doesn't do what video does, but I find it very helpful. So we'll talk about that again with Victoria.
I think Euro Video, now that obviously we've awarded a new contract, we can certainly inquire as to what the costs and expenses are. I think that the budget line for the video person was, large enough so that we could consider that.
okay.
So, maybe we can hear a little more input from the community regarding their desire to have that. You've been a proponent of it, and I appreciate that, but I'd like to hear more people
Okay.
or more residents, et cetera, saying, we'd really like to see that.
Okay. And if there is a meeting that residents are interested in, should we just email you, Tony?
Well,
and
we're not gonna do it
see if
on-
You're going to decide whether or not,
We'll put it in front of the board. I mean,
Okay.
certain items come up that are more interest to the public than others, say.
right,
Let's say we got that Yahoo, is it Yahoo's that's looking for all that space, or
Amazon.
Amazon, something like that were to come to town, we would definitely do something like that, but not everyone. If someone says, oh, I want this one on there, that can't happen. No,
right, right,
I
okay,
don't
the
see
board
it.
will decide.
Yeah,
Okay.
it could open a real can of worms,
Okay.
but there are things that have been obviously well attended.
Okay,
But the voice thing is going to be very helpful.
okay, great.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Town board members? Wow, that's the first, I like that.
I'd just like to wish everyone a happy Hanukkah, if you celebrate, and we'll be here before Christmas. And I'd also like to congratulate John Lord on winning the election, nail biter there. But wish him well in the next 4 years, come January. And that's all I have.
Okay, we'll see you before Christmas. Thank you all for coming.
Well, we got to make a motion.
Oh, that's right. Oh, Edwin, I'm sorry.
I'll make a motion, we close tonight's meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all for coming.